Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Department of Athletics, the Varsity Club, the Alumni Association, and the University of Southern Indiana, I want to happily welcome everyone back to campus for this special evening. This ceremony brings back so many former student athletes, coaches, people who have been associated with the athletic department for so many years. For the first time in seems like many years, I had so many people, especially from the 68-69 team, tell me that there was only one building here when they were here. We've grown a little bit since then. I would like to thank the USI administration for their continued support of the USI Athletic Hall of Fame. In attendance tonight are USI President Linda L.M. Bennett, Vice President Mark Rzeski, and former Chair of the USI Board of Trustees, Bruce Baker. Also, I would like to recognize members of the USI Athletic Hall of Fame who are with us this evening. Would the members of the USI Athletic Hall of Fame and or their family members who are representing the member please stand to be recognized? It's hard to believe, but 9 years ago, USI Director of Athletics John Mark Hall and I helped create the Hall of Fame Committee with the stated goal of recognizing the very best to come through the USI athletic programs. The one constant through every Hall of Fame selection meeting was, this is the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Pretty Good. Each year, the discussion continues to be spirited as more and more Hall of Fame candidates are nominated, and we debate whether decade in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, 2010s, which is the better decade. So as you can tell, the committee meetings for the selections is getting very spirited as the years go by. The committee has striven to select an elite group and recognize the contributions to USI athletics. The class of 2014 has cleared this bar in every way. Tonight we recognize 6 individuals and a team who have shaped our department into one that the university, the Evansville community, and the entire tri-state region can be proud of. Tonight we honor a baseball student athlete and his coach, whose extraordinary talents helped propel the program to what it is today. That same coach was the first USI student athlete to become a head coach at this university. A cross-country and track athlete that excelled and helped the program maintain its dominance in the region and the GLVC. A volleyball player that excelled as a freshman and then led her team to new heights by the end of her career. A softball player that was the cornerstone of a pair of GLVC championships. A soccer player that was as dynamic a player, or as dynamic on the soccer field as he was in the classroom. And a team that set the stage for student athletes, to come over the last 40 plus years. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are honoring excellence. Excellence in the athletic arena, excellence in the classroom. The group of 6 individuals and teams represent every decade of the nearly 45 years of intercollegiate athletics at USI. In both small and large ways, this class has helped us as an athletic department continue our pursuit of excellence. At this time, I would like to recognize our first inductee who was unable to be with us tonight. Duncan Bray was a second-team All-American in 2003, a second-team academic All-American in 2002, and a Scholar All-American in 2002 and 2003. Bray finished his career as the 2003 GLVC Paragon Award winner, the GLVC's highest honor for a student athlete. While Duncan was unable to be with us tonight, he sent this letter. Now, for those of you who know Duncan, you'll have to imagine this in a Scottish accent. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for my absence this evening. Attending this event was on the top of my priority list, but it just happened to fall on the same weekend as one of our major yacht shows here in Miami. When John Mark notified me of my selection, I was initially shocked. I didn't realize how old I was. That was closely followed with pride. Over the last decade since my graduation, I have been asked weekly, if not daily, how I came to be in the USA. Still, can't shake the accent. My answer of soccer and Evansville, Indiana, always raises an eyebrow and further questions. My time at USI was special. I enjoyed everything about my experience there, academic and athletic. Now that I'm a little older and wiser, I have come to realize that the benefits of college athletics, it instills qualities that you only become aware of after the fact. Health and fitness based on lifestyle, competitiveness, sportsmanship, and how to win gracefully and accept defeat. The last one I'm still working on. There are far too many people to thank, but I'd like to give a special mention to my coach, Dan Hogan, and all the athletic staff, from the trainers to the laundry workers. I am glad to see so many of the faces are still around. Professor Tim Mahoney was my favorite teacher. His door was always open to me, and often for questions unrelated to class. He also knew far too much about the world of soccer for an American econ professor. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the players that I played with. We had a special group which had a never say die attitude and brought us to many narrow victories. I sincerely hope to make it back for a weekend and watch some of the games this fall. It is long overdue. There are many faces I'd like to see. In the meantime, I'd like to wish the current athletes a successful spring, and I hope all in attendance have a fantastic evening. I know I'm missing out. Always an Eagles fan, Duncan Bray. At this time, we'd like to recognize our first presenter of the evening, a USI Hall of Famer in her own right, from the class of 2013, Shannon Wells.
All right, hopefully this year will be much easier than last year. I've already gotten through the first sentence, so we're pretty good. We're getting actually a lot better. I'm just so excited to be here, and to be honest, John Mark, if we could do this every year with a volleyball player, I'm all right. I'm okay, although I have banked both, so I'm done with this presenting type thing. The funny thing is, BAME, actually, Kim Bamer-Kaufman, we still call her BAME to this day, actually almost didn't show up at USI. So my sophomore year at college, we had a brand new coach. Her name was Katie Lawyer. She calls me in the summer, gets to know me a little bit, and I tell her right away that the setter on our team at the time, there's been a rumor that she's possibly not coming back to school. And I'm the backup setter. And you heard giggles, because my teammates know these amazing setting hands. It's just not a good idea from the very beginning. So I let her know that, hey, the setter might leave, you might want to look for somebody else. So she gets on the phone right away, calls all her connections. I'm sure they were very legal in the process, but finds Kim Bamer, who's at Roger Bacon High School and actually committed to Cincinnati State at the time. And before you know it, she becomes a screaming Eagle and steps on campus into the starting role right away. And I mean, she was a great setter, but she became an upperclassman favorite because she just laughed at all her jokes. So she was in the upperclassman van from the very beginning. She just laughed, and we're like, she is awesome. I mean, how can you not like that person? So pretty fun. But as a coach now, one of the most important things to me, it's not about the wins and the losses. It's more about the journey and the adventures that we get to have. So I can tell you about all the stats, but nobody really cares about that. So I can tell you much more funny stories about a word, candy cane. Some really cute spring break tank tops that were highlights. We actually stole her limo at her wedding while she was in the chapel taking pictures because we ran out of beer. So that was a pretty adventurous one. In college, me, Bame, Natalie, and Carol, who was her boyfriend at the time, used to sit on the porch at Copper Creek for hours and just talk and hang out and just have tons of fun. And then probably another memorable experience would be our progression of our camping skills. So we showed up, we would go camping all the time. I mean, we were big dorks. So that's what we did on the weekends. We went up to Hoosier National Forest and went camping. And first time we bring a couple beverages and hot dogs. And we're there for, a weekend. And then by the end, we got an air conditioner, we got smokers, we got 64 pounds of chicken. We don't mess around by the end. So by my senior year, we finally had it down. So, much more than the wins and losses, there's a great relationship there. And probably my most memorable story would actually be how Bame met her husband, Carol. And Carol, for those of you that don't know, was a men's basketball player here. And the volleyball players kind of had this thought about what men's basketball players were at that time. And if there's any men's basketball players in the audience today, I'm really sorry. But at the time, I'm sure it was just the time, we just thought they were kind of ghetto. So it was kind of like an unwritten rule that you weren't allowed to date the basketball team. So Carol had begged Cav to hook him up with Bame. Just please, and you're not good enough, Carol. I mean, flat out, she's way above you. It's just not gonna happen, So he kept begging and finally found the right volleyball player to hook him up, and double date later, and now they're married and great relationship. So you gotta love Carol because he's actually now considered one of the girls. And if ever we have like a girls' weekend, Carol's always invited. So it's not just the name, I guess. He gets confused in there. I had to do it. I had to do it. I had to. Our team is very close, and we actually still continue to use the USI Till I Die slogan. We have a reunion every year, and just to give you an idea, we actually went to Bame's house this weekend, and Bame lives in Hanson, Kentucky, and it's out in the middle of nowhere. And there was a stone driveway, or I don't know, dirt drive, I don't know what it is out there, but we took the adventure and went out there and had a great time and sitting around the table and just telling stories. And we actually missed the countdown. We totally forgot about it. So, before the end of the night, and probably my favorite part, reminiscing, we all put our sweatpants on, and, what do we do? Because we're in our 30s. We put in DVDs of our old playing days. That's right. USI Volleyball, 2001. And it was awesome because Cav and I are ripping each other, telling each other, how great we were and who didn't make the play, and chest bumping, and Bame's laughing, and it was just an incredible time. But what I value most about that was being able to be at her house, to be around her family, to see her as an incredible mother, to see her as a great wife, and thanks, Carol. To see her kids grow up and just continue to have that relationship. So her on-court accomplishments are crazy. I don't even know how I'm actually up here in the Hall of Fame when I went through her list. So she's our program's first All-American. She's the only player to earn 4 straight all-conference honors. She led our team to more victories than any other player that has ever been through our program. Broke the school record for assists her freshman year, and then did it every year after that, which allowed her to finish 3rd in the GLVC in career assists. So Bame, congrats. So proud of you. It's an honor to be here with you and your teammates and your family, and welcome to the USI Hall of Fame.
Shannon. That really means the world to me. It's such an honor to stand up here and accept this prestigious award. 10 years ago, I never would have thought I would be accepted into USI's Hall of Fame. It's also hard to believe it's already been 10 years since I've last played volleyball. After receiving a call several months ago from John Mark, I began to reminiscent over the past 10 years. So many great memories that will last a lifetime. I continue to think about one particular thing, the most life-changing decision I had ever made in late July 2000. I had signed a letter of intent to attend Cincinnati State. I had classes scheduled and was preparing for preseason to start within the next 2 weeks. Just as I thought I had everything figured out, I was contacted by Coach Katie Lawyer. Within the next several days, my parents and I traveled 4 hours to visit USI's campus. Immediately, I felt like this was the place for me. I didn't even meet with Coach Lawyer on that trip. I met with the athletic director and assistant athletic director and 2 players, Christy Cavanaugh and Jamie Cecil. Everyone was very welcoming. I left the recruiting trip and had a huge decision to make, one that would positively impact the rest of my life. I had 3 great coaches over my 4 years. Katie Lawyer was only here for 1 year, but made a huge impact. She was very competitive and instilled it in us. We only had a team of 7, which is unheard of these days. We traveled in an 8-passenger van for road trips, and boy, we had some good ones. That year, we went on to host the GLVC conference tournament, first time in school history. Second year, I had Coach Chrissy Smith. She was an intense coach, especially in the weight room. We had many early morning weight room practices before class, yoga in between classes, and volleyball practice after classes. It's still a running joke today that Shannon Wells out bench pressed my husband. My junior and senior year was Coach Barry. He was a great coach. He always kept his composure. There was something about him that just made you never want to disappoint him or let him down. I'll never forget one particular road trip. We were on our way home, and we stopped at a gas station. The clerk at the gas station gave us several dozen Krispy Kreme donuts to take home. Well, the donuts never made it home, and the next practice we ran and ran and ran. To this day, I still cannot eat a Krispy Kreme donut. One of my greatest moments with Coach Barry was taking University of Indianapolis into 5 games to win the GLVC conference tournament. Had I not made that life-changing decision in 2000, I would not have met my wonderful husband, Carol, and had 2 beautiful children, Nolan and Lily. Had I not made that decision, I would have missed out on incredible lifelong friends. We have such an incredible bond that cannot be broken. As you can see tonight, I have many people who traveled far distances to share this day with me. I could stand up here for hours telling stories. I am honored to have them here to support me. I would not be able to stand up here and accept this award without them. Even today, we have USI Till We Die gatherings. In fact, several of us got together on New Year's Eve, and instead of watching the ball drop, we stayed up till 3 a.m. watching old game tapes. These are the most amazing women, and I am blessed to have them part of my life. Most importantly, I would like to thank my parents. I would not be standing up here if it was not for your constant love and support. You allowed me to play and compete in a sport I loved playing. You unselfishly gave up your time to support me. You gave up many weekends and traveled many miles to support me. It was always so comforting to be able to look up in the stands and see you there. You backed me up 100% on my decision to attend USI and play volleyball, and I am eternally grateful, so thank you. Once again, I would like to thank the athletic department for hosting such a great event, and thank everyone who came to share this once-in-a-lifetime moment. It truly means the world to me. Thank you.
We will call on our next presenter to induct his 5th student athlete from his tenure at USI. At this time, I'd like to call on former USI head coach and the 1993 GLVC Coach of the Year, Gary Redmond, to introduce our next inductee.
Good evening. As you probably know, Matt Vince is not here tonight. He's from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and is an assistant principal at DeKalb High School, and we told him all along to move down south. And he got stuck in the snow in Indianapolis for an hour and a half and turned around and went back to stay in Indianapolis. So we'd like to honor him anyway, and my speech was geared for him to be here, so I'm going to act like he's here. And hopefully we can still honor him. Matt, I consider it a great privilege and honor to be able to introduce you tonight as a 2014 USI Hall of Fame member. Matt was my kind of player from day one. Matt came to USI in a little different method. He went to a Division I school his freshman year and didn't like the culture at that school and decided to transfer. We had a parent by the name of Larry Orr. He was a parent of one of my pitchers who lived in the Fort Wayne area. And he said, hey, I got a player I think is going to fit your program. He's your kind of player. He's looking to transfer. I said, well, tell me a little bit about Matt. Well, he began to tell me about his baseball skills and so forth, and I was interested. And Larry Orr, he had no Larry, he's as serious as can be, said he's pretty intense, and so is his dad. And if you know Matt Vince, you would know that to be exactly true. As I would describe Matt, he was a player that had a passion for the game of baseball. He practiced and played the game with great intensity and expected his teammates to do the same. His work ethic and drive to get better was outstanding. He played the game hard and to win and had a lot of fun doing it. I wish all baseball players could have as much fun playing the game as what Matt did. He was one of those guys that was kind of a Pete Rose type of guy. You wanted him on your team and you loved him, but you hated to play against him. Matt was a perfectionist. Todd Niemeyer told me, so I remember Matt protecting his glove from everyone. Matt would say his glove was perfectly formed and no one was to put their hand in his baseball glove. Matt played with style. My wife reminded me that when he batted, he had a batting glove in each pocket, so the fingers would hang out just perfectly. The reason was when he would run the bases, the batting glove would wave bye-bye to the base and bye-bye to the players on the other team. Matt was superstitious, like most athletes are. My wife again reminded me we were playing at McKendree, and she was sitting outside the fence in a lawn chair, had her foot propped up against the fence, and Matt was our leadoff hitter and came by, tapped her foot, base hit. Second time up, foot up against the fence, tapped that foot, base hit. Matt said, you're not moving. Well, my two sons were bat boys. They were probably at that time 5 and 7 or 6 and 8, somewhere in that neighborhood, and they had to go to the bathroom about the 5th and 6th inning, and the bathroom was inside the college, and here they come running to Mom, I need to go to the bathroom. She said, Matt's on a hitting streak. I'm not moving. You're on your own. If Matt had a fault, he was probably his own worst critic. Mike Fetcher tells me we had just finished our annual butt kicking of Augusta State in their tiny ballpark with a 30-foot high fence. After the win, Matt was sitting dejected in the dugout, putting his cleats into his bag when he just looks up and says, if I didn't hit a home run here, I guess I never will. And he was right. I looked his stats back up. Ray Simmons got it for me. 214 hits, 171 singles, 34 doubles, 9 triples, and Matt 0 home runs, so he was right. Then you got to talk about Matt's father, Tony. What a special guy. All the baseball players remember him. And Larry Orr was right. He was intense, loved baseball just like Matt. Asked Jason Crockett his memory. He said, well, my best memory about Matt's not necessarily about Matt at all. It's about his dad. I still think about the following saying all the time. Hey, batter, fastball, curveball, you just never know. I can still picture his dad's face behind the backstop. I guess every time I hear the Vince name, these words and images always come to mind. I even said it to my son last weekend for some reason. For the baseball players in that era, Tony Vince would show up. He stood behind home plate, hand in the fence, and every batter that came up from the other team, it was, hey, batter, fastball, curveball, you never know. Which reminds me of a story. Todd Niemeyer, who we call Nemo, was pitching one day, and he was on, had a very good ball game going, and with 2 strikes, normally the pitch he would throw would be a split-finger fastball. It would come in and fall right off, and it was normally strike 3. Well, Tony was in his position behind home plate, and again, we were in about the 4th or 5th inning, and the strikeouts were mounting up for Nemo, and he got 2 strikes on a batter, and the opposing coach begins to walk out of the coaching box, and he's heading back to the dugout. And I hear him mumble, it's another strikeout. Well, he makes a mistake. Instead of cutting across the diamond, he decides to circle around behind home plate between the umpire and the fence. And, of course, Tony couldn't wait. And he said, hey, Coach, I told you so, you never know. But that was the intensity of that family, and they loved the game of baseball. Real quick, some thoughts from their Hall of Fame teammates. Mike Fetcher said, I guess the best thing I remember about Matt's family was his dad, who was one of a kind, who always kept things loose. And his brother Mark, who played with us for a short period of time, he was so different than Matt. And I would just laugh when the 2 of them would argue like brothers, but you knew they loved each other in the end. Kevin Brown said, Matt was a guy that went out every day and led by example, during practice and games. He was a big reason for our team's success. His intensity day in and day out made his teammates better. Without his leadership, we have not been the team we were. And Todd Niemeyer said, Matt set the table for our lineup and the tone for the game. He was very aggressive and had a healthy confidence when he took the field. Everyone fed off his leadership. He was a great teammate to have and a friend to this day. Matt had 3 outstanding years here at USI. He started in 164 games, first in all-time stolen bases with 86, third in all-time runs scored with 214, 7th in all-time hits, 353 career batting average, hit 383 in 1992, a 3-time All-American. Matt wore number 13. That was my son Jace's favorite player, was Matt. Gerald bought his jersey when it was time to retire that jersey. Jace wore number 13 in high school. Matt was an absolute joy to coach. I appreciate him coming and playing for me and being an Eagle. And my closing sentence was, with great pride, I introduced to you number 13, our leadoff hitter and center fielder, Matt Vince, but he's not here. But to accept his award was somebody that idolized him, so my son Jace is going to, who wore number 13 in high school, the same as Matt wore, is going to accept the award for him. Thank you very much.
Our next presenter is well known to USI, the Director of Athletics and a 5-time GLVC Coach of the Year for men's tennis, John Mark Hall.
Thank you, Ray. First, I appreciate everyone coming tonight. We're taping this for Matt and Duncan, so Matt and Duncan, wish you could be here. We appreciate your efforts to get here. It's my honor and privilege to introduce our next Hall of Fame inductee, Lori Leonard. I didn't think Lori was going to make it today on her flight from down south. She just came back from Cancun, tough life, but I'm very glad she's able to make it with us tonight. You can see in the program that she was a very accomplished softball player. Lori was an All-American, 2-time All-Region, All-GLVC performer. Lori's name is all over the USI record books for softball. You can find her name in the hits category, runs, doubles, RBIs, stolen bases. I think the most important statistic to Lori is that she was a member of 2 GLVC championship teams and 2 NCAA tournament teams. Lori won 138 softball games here at USI, a very impressive number. But I want to make sure everyone here tonight realizes there's a lot more to Lori than her outstanding softball numbers. She's a person of great integrity and character. She had to go through a tough coaching change while she was here at USI, and her leadership and passion helped her teammates succeed through that tough transition. And by her senior year, really led her team to a new level. She was one of those people that everyone around the department knew and gravitated to. Everyone who was here during Lori's time knew she brought a great deal of energy to our department. She always had that smile. She still has that wonderful smile that can just pick up your spirits when you're having a tough day. I arrived at USI in the summer of 1995 after Lori's first year here, and she was one of the student athletes that stood out in the crowd, always here to encourage other teams and other student athletes. I feel very fortunate to have crossed paths with Lori. I know that no matter how my career unfolds, Lori will be one of the student athletes that I will always remember. Many people say that coaches and administrators in intercollegiate athletics are not supposed to have favorites, but I know in my case, I have favorites, and Lori is one of those favorites. She was a great teammate, leader, and ambassador for USI, but most importantly, she's a wonderful person with still that wonderful smile. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Hall of Fame inductee Lori Leonard Swain.
Thank you, John Mark, for those kind words. I'd really like to thank the selection committee for allowing me to be here tonight. I think I was really just blessed to play with some really great ball players, and I've made some tremendous friends, and one of them is here tonight with me, Andrea Strange. Thank you for coming. I really was actually kind of shocked the day that John Mark called, it's about 2 or 3 months ago maybe. I think I was more excited because I was kind of proud that I'd be able to tell my husband that I was actually being inducted into Hall of Fame, that I had actually played, because about 8-9 years ago after we were married, we decided we'd drive down to USI, and I thought, well, I'll show him where I lived, where I attended class, and where I played softball ultimately. So we drove through campus, and as we drove through, we came past all the familiar buildings, came around and up the hill. Lo and behold, there's no softball field. That was a pretty tough thing to explain. I said, well, I'm pretty sure this is where it was. He said, I'm pretty sure if somebody had played in collegiate athletics for 4 years, they would know where the softball field was. So tonight when I get home, I'll be very excited to show him the award that John Mark has presented me with this evening. I'd also really like to thank my parents for being here. They have been here through all the way through the T-ball games to the traveling softballs, and they've been my support 100% through growing up and especially here this evening, and they actually cut their vacation short as well to come and be here with me this evening. So I'd like to congratulate all the other inductees this evening, and I feel very honored to be a part of such an elite group of athletes. I have such great memories of my time here at USI, and it's nice to see the familiar faces here tonight. So thank you very much.
I'd like to call upon the next presenter, a member of the inaugural USI Hall of Fame class in 2007, Todd Reller.
Thank you all for coming. This next inductee was raised in northwestern Indiana in a town of Crown Point. While attending Lake Central High School, he was on teams that finished second and third his sophomore and junior year. In his senior year, after a brief health issue, he finished fifth individually in the 3,200 meter race in track. I'm not going to go into college because we got all that right there. Man, you were a lot thinner then, Mike. Unfortunately, Mike and I have a lot in common. First of all, we're both very smart. We're extremely good looking. And we're very good at long distance. Wait a minute. Let's scratch that smart part. I was stretching that. Probably not too smart to voluntarily inflict pain and suffering on a body by competing in long distance running. But unfortunately, Mike and I also have another trait. We are very slow in short distance. I mean, slow. Thank goodness college cross country is not a short distance sport, because I wouldn't be introducing that guy tonight. But his trait that he had was mile after mile after mile, he could just hold that pace forever. And that's what caught Coach Stegemoller's attention. Mike was very successful at an early age of running road races. Back in the day, 10,000 meters was the road race of choice, which was 6.2 miles. That's the distance that we run at the college level at the big races for the regionals and nationals, and used to be the state. And that's what Stegemoller looked at. He built his teams on guys that were okay in cross country and track, but he really looked at the road racing. Because you see, there's a lot of people don't know this, but in high school, you only run 5,000 meters. In college, you run 10,000 meters. So you almost need a crystal ball to figure out if this guy can do it or not. Because what happens is a coach will take you up to 80 to 100 miles a week to get ready for that distance. And you either burn out or you get hurt. Mike fit right in. And as you can see right there, he took quickly to it. So Stege was right on. Stege asked me to call Warbon and share a few success stories because we wasn't sure if he was coming here or not. So I must have said the right things, and in the fall of 1985, Mike made his journey to the southwestern Indiana for 4 great years on the trails and in the classroom. Mike now lives in Indianapolis with his wife Liz, daughter Sarah, and on behalf of his family and friends, I'd like to present to you Mike Orban.
Thanks for those kind words, Todd. You do know the reason I chose you to induct me is because I wouldn't have to change the height of the microphone. I want to say that this is a tremendous honor, and I want to congratulate all the other inductees tonight. I thank the selection committee as well. My time here at USI was a very, very eventful and happy time for me with a lot of pleasant memories. I had wonderful teammates, a tremendous coach, and it was a lot more than just the running experience here. I was commenting to President Bennett just a few minutes ago that what drew me to USI was the community, the living experience here. It was really an easy transition coming from being a high school kid to going into the college lifestyle and everything. It was a very smooth transition with the way we were able to have our own rooms, our own bathroom, just a lot of things that you had in your normal home life, and it was really just a very smooth way to make the transition. I had a lot of individual accomplishments and accolades while I was here, but it was really the team concept that got me to the 4 national cross-country meets. We won 3 Great Lakes Valley cross-country championships and 4 Indiana Little State titles while I was here, and I was a big part of that, but would not have been able to do that without the help of all my teammates, a lot of who are still some of my best friends today. I do have a couple people I'd like to recognize. I thought I was going to get through this okay, but the first one is Coach Stegemoller, who I'm very proud to join in this Hall of Fame along with Todd. Bill believed in me when a lot of Division I coaches, which is where I honestly thought I would end up when I graduated high school, did not. And I really appreciate the chance he took on me, and I think the proof was there that we had a pretty good thing together for 4 years. I was happy to see him recognized and get into this Hall of Fame himself in the first class, and it was much deserved as he put not only cross country, but I think athletics on the map at this university. Second of all, and most important, the support that I got from family, both my parents, my brother. I could not have done any of the things I did or have the accomplishments without their support. They gave up a lot to attend a lot of the meets that I ran. My brother saw it as a way of getting out of school, but it was nice to have him there, and I still have vivid memories of him chasing me on the course of several of my races. In closing, I would just like to say that it's a tremendous honor to be inducted into this class. I congratulate all the other inductees. Thanks a lot.
Our next inductee of the evening pull back here a sec. He's going to be introduced by a USI Hall of Famer of his own in his own right from the class of 2008, Todd Niemeyer.
Where to begin? It is a challenge to introduce a person that means so much to so many people and do that person justice, but I will do my best. For me personally, Gary Rudman was the best manager that I had at any level of baseball. He taught the game with amazing attention to detail. His players will probably remember his practice schedule. An example might be stretching from 2 o'clock to 2:07, throwing from 2:07 to 2:13. Every minute was accounted for. One of Coach Redmond's early practice routines was a 5-minute discussion about the mental aspects of the game. It could be a saying or a phrase that we would talk about. As most athletes know, mental toughness is one thing that can make a good player great. I remember one day when Coach had a picture cut out of the paper that showed a guy swinging a sledgehammer working on a construction site. He asked us what we thought about when we looked at the picture. Our shortstop, Tom Drake, commented how the guy wasn't holding his hands properly when he was swinging the sledge. That wasn't the answer Gary was looking for, but it did get a chuckle out of the rest of us. The point he was making is that our careers at USI would be over before we knew it, and we would be out in the real world. It was important that we make the most of every day and enjoy our experience. Our preparation and practice led to many wins during the regular season. Coach Redmond had a way of getting a lesson across that a player would never forget. The fall of my freshman year, we were scrimmaging the University of Evansville. I was pitching, and there was a runner on second base. Many of you have probably heard of the daylight play. Shortstop breaks for second base. The pitcher spins, throws the ball to the bag when he sees daylight between the runner and the shortstop. Our shortstop, Barry Strouser, broke for the bag. Instead of throwing to second base, or at least stepping off the rubber, I choked and threw a pitch to the plate. That was a big freshman mistake. Luckily, the pitch was fouled off. Gary came out of the dugout and not so quietly stated, and I won't quote how Gary would say it, even though I wish I could have that skill. The baseball guys know what I'm talking about. He said, "Barry, stand on second base. If that is where he wants you to play defense, just stand on the bag." Very embarrassing. The worst part for me is that it ended up being about a 12-pitch at bat. the guy fouled pitch after pitch after pitch off. The whole time, Barry's standing on the base. Luckily, there's only about 20 fans in the stands, so it wasn't too bad. It's just a fall scrimmage game. Finally, the guy popped it up on the infield. Barry takes one step in and makes the catch. Gary was so good that even when he was teaching a lesson to somebody, he had the other team scouted perfectly. Needless to say, I never made that mistake again. Gary was always finding a way to get his family involved while coaching, whether it was his dad as an assistant coach on the team, his wife Geraldine throwing batting practice, or his two oldest boys, Josh and Jace, hanging out with the team. And I kind of had a little story in here that I'm going to go ahead and say. John Mark, though, kind of cut me down to like 3 minutes, so I'm going to add it in because I think a couple other people have went over 3 minutes. So we're playing at West Georgia. Josh and Jace are in the dugout. We got a runner on second. I'm not pitching. This wasn't my mistake this time. The other team lays a nice bunt down, and our pitcher goes to get it. There's no force at third. Instead of taking the sure out at first, he throws it, airmails it into left field, basically. And the first thing, everybody's disappointed in Josh, who's probably 7 or 8. You've got to take the out there. He knew immediately what the proper play was. Most kids are like, huh? What? They're not even paying attention. They knew the game. They knew what was going on. I appreciate how Gary gave us the best chance to win every time we took the field. What I appreciate most is what he taught us about life. I remember one of his famous quotes, "There's always an excuse not to do something." Whether it was not running when it was cold outside or not going to class the morning after a late game, Gary didn't want us to make any excuses. He wanted maximum effort and accountability, 2 characteristics that would serve his players well in life. On behalf of the players he coached over the years, it's my great pleasure to introduce a Hall of Fame coach and my friend, Gary Redmond.
Well, like it or not, I'm back. Thank you, Todd. That was a very nice introduction, very kind, and at least you weren't cruel. Also, thank you to John Mark Hall and the USI Hall of Fame Committee for this award and this special night. And as Nemo was talking about, one of probably the fun thing of all of this is the notes you get from people, congratulations you get, and the stories you hear. Now, I'm going to start off with a couple of the stories of people that congratulated me because I think they're very appropriate for this night and what it's all about. First one's an umpire story. Might as well get the blood going and so forth and talk about umpires. They're great guys, sometimes. Had a math teacher in Mount Vernon come down and tell me congratulations on the award, and he said, just by chance, just this past weekend, I had dinner with a guy that umpired. He said he almost kicked you out of a game for arguing. And my immediate response was, that's the problem. He almost got the call right, but it wouldn't even been a situation. Go to Ellis Park a couple of times a year. I almost win every time I go. I had number 2, was going to bet it. And that's what tonight's about, the opposite of that. And my congratulations as well to the USI Hall of Fame class of 2014. Kim, Lori, Duncan, Mike, Matt, and the team members of the 68-69 team. This is a group of people that were not almost people. They were people that were great athletes and achievers, and my congratulations to you athletes. The other story is about a guy named Dennis Pruitt. JB's laughing. Dennis and I played together at ISUE a couple years ago. Dennis went out of his way at a high school basketball game to find me this year and to congratulate me on this award. Why is that important? Well, Dennis is a great guy, but he went to high school at a high school called Evansville Memorial and played baseball, and I went to Mount Vernon High School and played baseball. I hated that guy. I'd just soon spit on him back then, right, Coach Jeffries? But we came here at ISUE and became really good friends and found out how great he was, and it's been a friendship ever since. And again, this is what tonight's all about to me. It's the bonding and fellowship that takes place at USI. It's the USI community and the great culture that's here. To start with, I want you to understand that this award is not about me. It's all about the USI baseball program, the players, and all those outstanding people that surround the program. You know, you heard the old saying, guilt by association, and I think my Hall of Fame is Hall of Fame by association. I had so many great people influence my life that were here at USI. It was just a wonderful culture, and I've got to take time to go through this. But my office was on the third floor of the PAC. Just listen to what I was surrounded by. To start off with, across the hallway was a guy by the name of Charles Bertram, 2007 USI Hall of Fame inductee. GLVC faculty rep, fellow math instructor with me. He was a friend as well as his family, Alice, John, and David. Next door was a guy by the name of Bruce Pearl, 2008 USI Hall of Fame inductee. I met Bruce in May of 1992. We had just lost to Lewis University 5-4 at home in the championship game of the National Regional. I'd never seen Bruce before. He comes charging in the dugout. Well, you know Bruce. The speech began about why he came to USI. It's a place where you can win championships, and your team is a great team, and you're going to win the championship next year, and I can't do it like Bruce did it. But on he went. And, of course, I was convinced I would win it all next year. On the other side of me, and also next door, was a soccer coach, Tony Colavecchia, 2013 USI Hall of Fame inductee. Our fields were side by side. We played and watched each other. The ironic thing was, I didn't know anything about soccer. He didn't know anything about baseball. So we asked the dumbest questions to each other about our sports. But we still shared a lot of coaching ideas that went on. Also in that hallway was Chance Dugan, 2009 USI Fame Hall inductee, Don Bennett, 2011 inductee, and Ruth Waller, 2008 Hall of Fame inductee. That was the north side. The south side of the pack had a guy by the name of Jim Brown. He was a 2009 USI Hall of Famee. I played for JB here at USI. He was a mentor, a friend, along with Anita, Brad, and Brenda. Also on the south side of the pack was Jane Davis Brissett, 2013 Hall of Fame inductee. I had Jane as an instructor once upon a time here. We don't want to talk about that, do we? But later on, she became a friend, co-worker, and I was able to benefit from her knowledge and friendship. Then the players. I was so blessed to have so many great players. 5 of them now are USI inductees. They're Hall of Fame players as well. Mike Fetcher in 2007, Todd Niemeyer in 8, Kevin Brown in 10, Jason Kroc 2011, and this year Matt Vince 2014. The culture was just wonderful. I've got to spend time to go through and recognize some people. It takes a community to raise a child, and it takes a community, I think, to raise a baseball coach, in my opinion. But my baseball coaches, I need to thank those people. Chummy Jeffries, who's here tonight, Jerry Blemper, and, of course, Jim Brown. USI Athletic Directors Larry Arp and Don Bennett. USI Grounds, Steve Selby. I mean, you've got to understand how these people help. USI Security, Barry Hart. There was a guy that loved baseball and was very supportive. Athletic Secretaries Rita Murphy and Joni Jost. The local media, at that time Harold Martin of Evansville Press and Dean Webster of TV 14. I'll bring back some old names for you. Art Hall was then of Art Hall Motors, who provided the program with a courtesy truck each year. USI Math Department, Dave Kinsey was so kind to me. Best trainer in the world, Chris Diaz, who's here tonight. Excuse me. Ray Simmons is still hanging around at USI Sports Information. I was here and he was a pup, and he's still here. The radio, USI Radio, John Morris, who is now one of my son's instructors. USI Physical Plant, Miles Mann. Past and present baseball coaches, Jim Brown again, Larry Schoen, Mike Gady, Tracy Archuleta. My assistant baseball coaches, Bob Sensenbrenner, Malvin Redmond, Mark LaRue, Jason Staum, Brad Snyder, Tony Ernst, Roger Hughes, and the pay for them was slim and sometimes none. Mac LaRue of the Legion program here was so influential at that time. I had so many supportive parents, especially Hedmer Trucking and Adler Irrigation. My family, I'll never get through this. Gerald and Josh, Jason, Jevin, please stand. I'm And Mike, you started all this emotion stuff, you know. And seated with them as well is Jason's wife, Brittany, and my brother, Roger, and his wife, Armetta. The best part of the Hall of Fame program are the memories, and I had a chance to go back and think about those and the teams and the players. And I was hired in 1987, and to my youngest son, that was when I took Old Paint and we rode to the game. I knew the type of players I wanted to recruit back then when I came in. I wanted players who were students as well as baseball players, players who would compete for championships. I wanted to play the best competition I could find, which that may have been a mistake, and I wanted to win doing it the right way. I think about the teams I had the first couple years and how hard they worked and the battles they had to fight to build the blocks for the future. My first team in 1988 played the best competition I could find. We finished 23-25. 10 of those losses were to Division I teams. In year 2, we went 30-21 with 6 Division I losses, and that team made the NCAA National Regional. I remember how things began to come together for teams after that. Division I schools would not play us anymore, including the team that's across town. Facilities improved, and teams played in 2 more national regionals, and the 92 team was a base hit away from qualifying for the Division II National Championship. And my dreams continue on. A special thank you and congratulations to Coach Archuleta and his players for their national championship. As I've said, this award's about the players. I was blessed to have great individuals as players. The players let me coach the way I wanted to coach, and they accepted my style. And you don't see that as much anymore. They were true athletes who enjoyed competition and challenges. I want to thank those players for believing in me and attending the University of Southern Indiana. Our scholarships are limited, and I thank the players for understanding that and the need to take partial scholarships so that we can recruit more players in order to compete for championships. A few memories I would like to share, and some of those go with what Nemo had talked about. And I tried to include my family a lot in things that we did and a bonding experience. My oldest son, Josh, who was probably 5 at the time, talked his way into going on a road trip with me. And we traveled in a truck from Art Hall and 2 vans. And I talked to him about what the road trip was going to be like, and we were going to keep moving and don't drink a lot before we leave. Well, that lasted about an hour and a half, and we were out on the interstate, on a parkway, and there's nothing. And he's got to go to the bathroom. It's him and I in the truck. And there's nowhere to pull over. There's very little traffic, so we did what I had to do. We pulled on over, and I said, hop down the bank and go, and let's get moving. So I looked in the rearview mirror to make sure the other 2 vans were going to do the same thing, and they did the same thing. They pulled over, the vans emptied, and everybody had a nice time here, and they joined in. And I thought my days are limited as the coach at USI. And the bonding experience happened at the motel. I checked in. Josh is right behind me, and one by one, high-fiving and say, thanks, you saved us. We weren't going to make it. And the other was batting practice at Northern Kentucky. Their L-shaped pitching screen was not really a pitching screen. It had multiple holes in it. And my wife was determined she was throwing batting practice that day before the game. So I let her, and I told the team, don't hit the ball back up the middle. Don't do that. Well, it went pretty good until Steve Grease came up. And about the 3rd one, whack, right up the middle, right through the hole in the pitching screen, or whack right in the stomach. And she had a permanent tattoo from Steve Grease. Steve Cavanaugh, on a road trip, knocks on my door and says, Coach, there's a big hole in our wall in our room. I said, well, was it there when you checked in? No, sir, it was not. I remember all the senior speeches and the freshmen singing center field as we did every year. I remember Mike Fetcher skipping the study table as a freshman and trying to rain us out at second base. I remember some of the timely home runs hit by Barry Strasser, Jason Strom, Kevin Horton, Dennis Humphrey, Benny Shackelford, Mike McDonough, Jeff Engelbrecht, Steve Cavanaugh, Tom Dake, Jason Kroc, and Kevin Brown. I remember the spring trips. We had so much fun. We played a lot of clabber. We had a couple of guys thought they were pretty good. Steve Grease and Brian Meyer were good modern-day boys. They thought they were pretty good at clabber. So Josh was 7 years old. So we said, oh, we'll play you. So they smoked us the first game, but the record is we beat them 12 in a row, and we remind them of that often. I had to kick my sons, Josh and Jace, out of the dugout at Hanover one day, and they deserved it. Problem was, I had to deal with their mom after the game. That was the problem. I remember the great pitching performances by Todd Croft, Steve Spoyer, Tim Lindar, Tim Doyle, Damon Brown, Kyle Castle, Greg Orr, Christopher Lear, Mike Fetcher, and Todd Niemeyer. I remember pitchers, how good of hitters you said you were. I remember the great defensive plays by Keith Ayers, Pat Cruz, Mike McDonough, Jason Stom, Tom Drake, Blake Kruger, Steve Grease, Brian Maurer, Kevin Brown, Jason Kroc, Barry Strasser, Matt Vince, Corey Lamb, and Stu Sheets. How could you forget Lewis University? That makes you sick. If you ever played baseball up there, you understand. The umpires had to be a direct relative of their head coach. The bullpen, the visiting bullpen, was stuck way out there. Give them credit, it was on campus. But honest to goodness, the parking lot was closer to the field than what the bullpen was. I don't know if that's changed or not. Most of all, I enjoyed the quotes of the day, and Todd talked a little bit about that. And you try to accomplish things, but sometimes you didn't always accomplish them. And I just had one down. I put down one year or one practice. He ain't heavy, he's my brother. I wanted to talk about that. I said, it's a song title. Well, as we just started to discuss it, Dennis Humphrey said, that's not a song title. I've never heard of it. So we spent a lot of time arguing about that. So Dennis went to the library that night. I think it was his first trip ever. And it was 1969 by the Hollies. He came back the next day, and Neil Diamond re-recorded it in 1970. Going through the lines after the games is the one thing that's a big memory for the players. Final memories are now seeing how successful players you are after your days at USI. Your doctors, your dentists, your teachers, your coaches, your accountants, your business professionals, as well as great husbands and fathers. Guys, I love hearing the stories about your families. I enjoy your telling the stories of your USI baseball days, even though your version is sometimes a little different than what I want to remember or how I would tell it. I'm going to finish with two quotes. I know you're glad I'm saying I'm going to finish. First one's a quote from the movie Hoosiers. It's one of our favorite movies. This quote takes place in downtown Hickory, and it's Opal Fleener's quote, the grandma that's in the movie, talking to Coach Dale Norman. Sun don't shine on the same dog's ass every day, but mister, you ain't seen a ray of light since you got here. In the coaching profession, you have a lot of dark days, and I just want to thank the USI Hall of Fame committee for letting the sun shine on this old dog's ass for one night. And I'll finish with this. Coach Bill Parcells at the 2013 Football Hall of Fame induction talked about a plaque that was on a hallway when he coached. And I can't get it out of my mind. I shared it with our coaching staff at Mount Vernon, and I think about it all the time when things go on. And the plaque was entitled Winners and Losers. Losers assemble in little groups and complain about coaches and the players in the other little groups. But winners assemble as a team. Thank you for assembling with me tonight as a team and accepting this award that goes to all the USI baseball family. Thank you very much.
Our final inductee is the 1968-69 men's basketball team. Then ISUE is the official intercollegiate team, first intercollegiate team here at USI. At this time, I'd like to introduce the members of the USI, or member of the USI Athletic Hall of Fame, the coach of the squad, and a legend around the university, John Deem.
Thank you, Ray. Ladies and gentlemen, it's such an honor to stand before you tonight, speaking on behalf of the 1968-69 men's basketball team that's being inducted into the University of Southern Indiana's Athletic Hall of Fame class of 2014. Each of us is truly humbled and blessed to be in this year's class. And we'd like to extend a personal thank you to everyone who was involved in selecting our team for this incredible honor, and we'll cherish it forever. One of my favorites, the legendary singer Johnny Cash, often liked to say that he never let facts get in the way of a good story. So you may want to keep this in mind as I'm making the presentation this evening. Let's begin our story this evening about how this team actually came about. In the beginning, and I've always wanted to start a presentation with that, in the beginning, and in this case it's totally appropriate. The university opened its doors and offered its first academic classes on September 15th, 1965. 2 years later, in the summer of 1967, David Rice, Byron Wright, and a few others of us were hired and joined the staff of the university. In early summer next year, 1968, I received a call one day from Byron Wright, who was at that time the business manager, later to become the vice president for business affairs, and he wanted me to come down to his office. Byron said that Dr. David Rice, who was then the dean of the campus, later to become the first president of the university, had decided that he wanted an athletic program started at the university, and that he wanted me, an accounting professor, to coach a men's basketball team starting that fall in 1968. When David Rice, president of the university, retired in 1995, he hand-wrote personal notes to the 10 of us who joined the university with him in 67 and that were still here. And a part of my note read, "John, you are always eager to begin a new initiative, i.e., hatching the Eagles." I never asked why he chose me. I just considered it an honor and a privilege, and the process began. At that time, in the fall of '68, we were primarily offering only freshman and sophomore classes, with just a few junior classes splattered in. It would be 2 more years before we would offer sufficient required junior and senior level classes to enable rewarding the first baccalaureate degrees in the spring of 1971. During the summer of '68, we developed a fairly competitive game schedule with other 2- and 1-year educational institutions in the tri-state: Henderson Community College, Lockyer Business College, and we also scheduled a tournament at Harrisburg, Illinois, with Paducah Community College from Kentucky and Harrisburg and Centralia Community Colleges from Illinois. The old Centennial School, where the university had started and was housed, had a gym, but it was used exclusively for classes. So we contracted and played home games at Plaza Park Grade School. Practices were held at the YWCA gym, and yes, that's the Young Women's Christian Association, from 9 to 11 in the evenings. And each evening, the team's practice provided entertainment for the young ladies living at the Y. Now, one unexpected advantage of practicing at the Y was that the team got used to playing before rowdy fans, cheering and whistling at them. Did I mention that there was no budget for the program? Early on, we spent a lot of time searching, begging, pleading for dollars to support the different needs. Luckily, the Westside Nut Club, who was then and has always been a great supporter of the university's athletic programs, provided us funding for uniforms and equipment and a few other things. Players still had to provide their own practice clothes, shoes, meals, and other necessities. Well, by now it was late in the summer, and our option was to recruit a team from the students who were already enrolled in the fall semester of 1968. Total enrollment was slightly over 1,100, of about which 600 were men, and about 400 were enrolled full-time. We thought if we eventually were going to join the NCAA, we might as well follow their rules, so the players had to be enrolled full-time and have a 2-point GPA. And using all the means we had available, we announced the beginning of the program through announcements in classes, placing signs around the building, and putting articles in the newspaper, the Roach. Over 30 men contacted me and indicated an interest in playing. Through screening, tryouts, and cuts, We eventually narrowed the number to the 10 strongest, and we had our 10-man team. And the reason we limited our roster to 10 men was because we only had been able to purchase 10 uniforms. Okay, players, staff, gym, competition, everything in place. The stage was set. Let the games begin. And play they did. These men played with as much passion and desire as their skills and abilities would allow. What they didn't have in God-given talent, they made up with determination, will, and persistence. By the end of the season, they had tasted the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. 20 years ago, the team held a 25th reunion. And at that time, I asked the athletic department if I might review the scorebook from that first year of competition. And I was told that the book somehow could not be found. Sometime in the past, it had been lost. I felt sad. We'll never be able to verify individual and team statistics and records. And then I felt happy. We'll never be able to verify individual and team statistics and records. I got to thinking, we don't need that book. Even if we could calculate the statistics and records for the 68-69 team, those records have long been replaced by the play of more recent teams and athletes. And then I had an epiphany. I realized the 1968-69 men's basketball team will be the only men's basketball team to hold every individual and team statistical record that's maintained in basketball. That's right. At the end of their season, they held a record for the highest free throw percentage, highest rebounding percentage, most steals, most rebounds, highest scoring average, and on and on and on in the history of the university. If you get the picture, if you're the first team to play in a sport, you set the stats, therefore you hold the records. And they were a very unique team. Before I introduce you to the individual players, I'd like to ask the families and friends of the players and coaches to please stand and be recognized. If you'd please stand up, I'd appreciate it very much. We thank you for the support some of you gave us all the way back in 68, 69, but mostly support you've given us during the last 45 years. Thank you very much. And now I would like to recognize one special person. Would my beautiful wife, Pam, please stand? The team at the end of the season dinner in 1969 voted Pam as their number one fan. This was her team. She never missed a minute of their games and was always there cheering them on. So thank you. Now it's my pleasure to introduce you to the individual players of this amazing team. Two of the players couldn't be with us this evening because of prior commitments, Mr. Robbie Kent and Mr. Dale Fade. A third, Mr. Bill Juergens, passed away a few years ago. Bill was very active in the USI varsity club for a number of years, and he was instrumental in organizing that 25th reunion of this team. Bill would have truly enjoyed tonight's events. Gentlemen, when I call your name, please come up and join me on stage and just line up across the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask that you please hold your applause until all the players have been introduced. Mr. Mike Meyer. Mike graduated from Bosse High School. He played forward on the 68-69 team. Mike currently is a manufacturer's representative for the Lester Sales Company out of Indianapolis. Mr. Abe Krause. Abe graduated from North High School. He played guard on the 1968-69 team. Abe was an Evansville firefighter and retired in 2006 as a lieutenant. Mr. Dwayne Zare graduated from North High School, played forward center on the 68-69 team. Dwayne co-owned Current Circuits and was vice president of sales. He retired in 2010. Now is sales manager of Davis & Holmes, a North Alabama home builder. Mr. Dave Sinning graduated from North High School, played guard on the 68-69 team. Dave was a member of the North High School 1967 basketball team that won the Indiana High School State Championship. Dave currently is employed with the City of Evansville Utilities Department. Mr. Byron Sanders. Byron graduated from North High School, played forward on the 68-69 team. Byron retired from Meade Johnson Bristol Myers Squibb after 30 years. After retirement, he was director of operations for the new Ford Center and coached girls high school basketball in Mount Vernon. Mr. Greg Wazit. Greg graduated from Memorial High School, played center forward on the 68-69 team. Greg retired from Kuster's Hardware and from Knight Lumber. And just a note of interest, Greg's girlfriend, now his wife of 44 years, was living at the YWCA the year we practiced there. Mr. Skip Corder. Skip graduated from Harrison High School. He played guard on the 68-69 team. Skip retired from the United States Air Force chaplain service in 2007 as a senior chaplain full colonel after 30 years of service. He's currently senior pastor of St. John's Lutheran Church in downtown San Antonio, Texas. I need to mention two other individuals that were a part of this team. Dr. Jack Engelke, he taught in the business area in 1968. He was our volunteer assistant coach. He could not be here this evening. And Mr. Bill Bransassy, a student worker in the business area who served as our statistician. Bill passed away a few years ago. Both were very important members of this team. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the members of the 68-69 men's basketball team. Stay here just a minute. I earlier had asked the players to recall for me some of their favorite memories from their experiences of playing on that team, and a few of their responses were the overnight trip to Harrisburg, Illinois to play in a tournament against some very tough competition. It was fun playing on the same team with some of the guys I had competed against in high school. Scoring 42 points in one game. Coach's comment. My comment that night to the other players. He's on fire, damn it, get in the ball. There's some disagreement among the players about our win and loss record. Some players say 6-6, others 7-5, others say we were undefeated. Time just seems to inflate records if they're not written down, and since ours are not, Coach leans towards undefeated. Okay. I remember we played a tough zone defense. 2 games had to be stopped to clean the blood off the floor. Theirs, not ours. Needless to say, we didn't give our opponents easy layups. Coach's comment. Did I mention earlier this evening that some of the players were all state in football? Okay. It marks a coming of age time in my life, a time when I was forced into making decisions about priorities, and I'm glad I chose playing on our team as a priority. And a final one. I guess my best memory was the night I suited up to play for the first time. I prayed during the whole game that God gave you the wisdom not to put me on the court. God did answer that prayer, and as a result, that night I promised to go into the priesthood. Oh, the deals we make with the Almighty. Coach's comment, he went on to play in a number of games. I'm sure these men have a lot more stories and memories that they would be happy to share with you if you just ask them after the program. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to leave you with a quote. Seems like coaches do that, don't we? The author's unknown. Only by standing on the shoulders of those who have gone before can we gaze into the future. In the beginning, there were 10 student athletes. There are over 230 student athletes on teams this year, and thousands upon thousands have participated during the past 45 years. But in the beginning, there were these 10 men, and they have very broad shoulders. These 10 men are the founding fathers. They're the charter members of the Brotherhood of Athletes who have in the past, who currently do, and who will in the future represent this magnificent university on the fields of athletic competition. Ladies and gentlemen, the 1968-69 men's basketball team that hatched the Eagles.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the close of yet another Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Tonight we've honored those who've excelled above and beyond. I want to thank this year's inductees for your presence here tonight, for the stories, the laughs, the tears, and look forward to seeing everyone back here next year as we induct another class. Thank you for everything. Good evening. And we'll see everybody at basketball tomorrow. By the way, game times are 1 and 3:15. We need all the help we can get. You know, the Eagles still playing tomorrow. Lastly, would all the inductees please meet me up here in the corner for a couple of quick group shots. Again, thank you to everyone for coming out this evening. See you next year.